My name is Chris Thomas. I'm the publishing producer on Battleborn over at 2K, and I work really closely with the Gearbox production crew to essentially just manage everything about the game, from the story, for the quality to the budget, the schedule, everything. I definitely play the game. I don't get to play it as much as I want to, but I definitely get to play it, yeah. The character variety. Yeah, I mean, it's what really sets the game apart from, the Borderlands series and from a lot of other games out there is the fact that we have these really incredible characters and that they're so varied and they're so, just unique. And I'm always finding, I would say daily, I'm finding a different character that I like the most. So some days I'm like, I'm really into this character, and some days I'm just like one of our newer characters that we're debuting, Benedict. I've just fallen in love with that guy in the last couple weeks. He's just amazing. That would be, honestly, that would be great. Right now, we're just focused on getting all of those in the box and getting the story mode finished and get it. Yes, in the proverbial Gearbox. But yes, we're just trying to get the game done right now because it's at that point where we've got a lot left to do, but we're getting close. I always say that if the game is successful and that the demand is there, that we would love to support it post launch. And Gearbox is obviously known for making really incredible DLC, so we'll see what happens. It's a good question. So the game has definitely been designed in a way that we want it to feel familiar to the people who love Borderlands, because there's a lot of great aspects to that game, and so the single player definitely has some of that familiarity, and you're going to get a lot of that sort of Gearbox humor, and you're going to get a lot of those great characters that you can imagine from Gearbox, but Gearbox actually has a pretty they have some pretty historical experience with making competitive multiplayer, and they actually were just really excited about getting back into that, and especially with the new consoles and being able to just create something that they hadn't created in a while. It definitely feels different from the respect of it's just insanity, and you've got 5v5, so it's just it's insane what's going on screen at any given point, but it plays exactly as far as how the abilities act and how you level up the characters and all that. It plays the same in single player and competitive. It would honestly, that would be awesome. I always think that the best esports come from the community. If the community demands it or the community wants it, then assuming that the developer can support that, then that would be great. So if Battleborn comes out and people really want to see that and they want it to be an esport, then we would love to support it. It depends on the character. For the most part, their actual weapons stay the same, but some of the weapons will change based on what ability you've chosen in your helix menu. So Oscar Mike is the easy example because he has a couple different sights that will be on his assault rifle, and so depending on which one of those abilities you pick, it will add that particular sight to the gun. So it'll visually look different, and obviously it'll play differently. But for the most part, the weapons themselves will stay the same. Wrath will always have his swords, but the way his abilities actually act will change based on how you've customized your helix. Story setup is actually pretty interesting because we wanted to maintain that idea of leveling up a character from level 1 to 10, seeing the complete progression of that character, and then being able to reset it for the next match. So that still holds true for the story mode. And the way it's set up is basically set up in chapters. So you would play a chapter and you would get a full story experience from that chapter, and then you'd play another chapter. And so your character would start back at level 1, but the time you've invested in playing those different matches, you're still going to be gaining experience, which will go to the character rank and to a player profile rank. So it's like a multi-layered player progression system. So regardless of what you do in the game, you're going to be gaining experience and leveling up and unlocking stuff. But the way the story mode is laid out, just going back to that really quick, if you play multiple chapters in a row, or you play all the chapters, of course, you're going to get an overarching narrative told to you. So I try to explain it as if you were watching, say, an episode of like Star Trek or something. Like you're gonna get that story experience within one chapter, but if you watch a bunch of them in a row, you're gonna get this bigger, like, major narrative told to you. Gearbox always wanting to have a really cool art style. It's something that really pops, and something that like is memorable. And that's the same thing they did with Borderlands. But the actual art style where we landed was more born from how do you figure out how to take all these crazy characters and have them coexist in the same universe. So, they obviously tried a lot of different art styles, and there was a lot of stuff kind of worked or didn't work. But then once we kind of landed on this, and it was perfect. It was popped out. It's familiar feeling to the Borderlands fans, but it's also different enough that it still feels like new and fresh and cool. So yeah. I can't even go there. I do know that Gearbox is looking. I know that they're hiring people for Borderlands 3, but they haven't started working on it yet, though. But and Battleborn is obviously a completely different universe, completely different game altogether. So.